Hey neighbor, welcome back to another episode of The Think Tank. Today I've had on my mind for quite some time iHeartRadio. And that might sound like an irrelevant topic to talk about because didn't they file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and isn't the radio irrelevant as it is as an entity? Well, you might think that, but still, 93% of people in the United States still have access to the radio. It's considered technically the most popular form out there, even though it's more of like passive listening. Maybe you're hearing it in the background at like a car shop if you're getting your car worked on, or at the doctor's office, wherever you might be. It's not something that you necessarily engage with like you would a computer or even the TV. Radio has been around for so long, and there were rules set in place at one point in time that no company could own more than 40 radio stations. That changed in 1996, and quickly people started scooping up more and more properties. I would say that Cumulus Media, who you might hear, maybe their tag if you do listen to the radio occasionally, and in general, I would be curious to know how many of my viewers actually still listen to the radio, like at all. See, I personally avoid the radio at all costs. Like if I forget my phone at home and I'm running to the grocery store and I have to turn something on, I will. But I would rather not. And I think a lot of that doesn't just have to do with the fact that, oh, it's the radio and I don't get to pick myself. It's even more the fact that iHeartRadio in particular bought up more than 800 stations across the entire country, actually some worldwide. And they scooped everything up and they homogenized the fuck out of everything. It really upsets me because I really used to enjoy some of the local shows. My old station 106.5 The End, the alternative rock station based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, I would listen to all the time, and I would listen to programs like Jack at Night and some of the people on air like Rozak, who is actually still there. But that's neither here nor there, despite the fact that some of the local hosts have stayed. Mostly, you're getting syndicated feeds of stuff that is airing nationwide. There are very few stations that have something that is true to them, something that is unique to San Diego, unique to somewhere in Wyoming or North Carolina. It's all the same nationwide, and it's so damn boring that I feel iHeartRadio's homogenized feeling and their lack of personality towards anything has really ruined the radio permanently. In my state alone, they own 30 of the stations and many of the ones that I used to listen to. It's unfortunate because so many of them have gone downhill since then, and radio in general is in a free fall right now. People are not advertising on the radio like they used to. They're not advertising on TV or in newspapers because a lot of younger people, most younger people I would argue, are not consuming those things. Digital advertising is where it's at. You probably got an ad on this video, and of course, people are putting their money behind these digital spaces because, again, radio is this terrestrial passive thing. But of course, there's been others that have tried to change that. Some things are a little bit more exciting, like Sirius XM. I personally don't pay for a subscription, but I know people who do and are pretty satisfied with it because they get stuff like Howard Stern. And there are some great rock stations out there like Octane that do play smaller bands like Boston Manor. I've heard that they've gained some traction there. And I've heard that Sirius XM is much better in terms of diversity. So instead of having the local personalities, instead of trying to take more of not the easy way out, they don't pay the hosts like they used to. They don't have personalities coming in and out. Instead, it's just like one dude or a show, and it's syndicated throughout the entire country. I mean, I know locally we've got like the Woody and Wilcox show, but it's in like 8 different states, and they're actually fucking terrible, so no. For as cheesy as the radio might seem, part of my heart wants it to be better and wants to actually be able to turn on the radio and not cringe, because my rock station is only playing the same 2 90s hits over and over again, Smells Like Teen Spirit and an Offspring song, and then, of course, they're switching it over to the modern stuff that they consider alternative, which is AJR, Lovely the Band, Imagine Dragons. It's the same playlist that you would probably see on Spotify, and they're trying to mimic streaming services and those habits, and they've lost any unique shine that they might have. Instead of trying to fit in, they should be trying to cut themselves out of this puzzle and creating a new one. That would be what would actually draw listeners back to your platform. When I was growing up, while things were vastly different, I do feel that there was still some personality. There were obviously syndicated shows too. I mean, my dad would listen to Paul Harvey every day, and that was kind of audible torture for like a 7-year-old at the time. But looking back, I do miss the mix that we got. The sense of local personality, the sense of maybe a local playlist. Think back to the 90s and the boom of like grunge out there in Seattle, Washington. Do you think that they were playing the same thing there that they were playing over on the East Coast in New York? No, not at all. I mean, some of the radio stations helped propel bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam to these huge heights because grunge was exploding there. It was exciting because you could get the authentic feeling of what was going on in that territory. If you were coming in from out of state, maybe you would discover new music on the radio. But now, all I hear is things that I've heard a million times over. They don't want to give anybody new any exposure. It's the same thing, just like what I talked about with alternative press. Instead of featuring any other bands, they just try to be everybody else. I will likely always have a soft spot for the radio because I did grow up listening to it, and I discovered not only alternative bands, but I would listen to like pop and country, a little bit of rap here and there. Occasionally I would tune into my local station 102 Jams. There were just so many fun times to be had because there were new things to discover. And obviously the radio can't break and premiere things like they used to. That has kind of gone out the window as the digital streaming platform has risen to this huge beast that is probably never going to back down unless the internet dies, and then radio is going to rejoice. But it's very frustrating to see that the radio is not even trying. And in particular, this one company, iHeartRadio, has bought up everything, and they just do the same thing for every station. They treat it like it's one entity. It's like now all of the doctors and hospitals, generally probably in your area, they're owned by one company. And I remember all of these changes happening. And it's like, yes, it's nice that there's one portal for everything that I can log into for this doctor and this doctor and this dentist. But at the same time, there's no uniqueness there. They're just treating everything like it's a product and it loses the personality. It's not just the radio, it's happening to other corporations. And I really just miss the humanity, I guess, out there. I miss having a non-cringeworthy DJ that's really just broadcasting nationwide, so they're trying to be as basic as possible. I miss those local things, and I would love to know, what do you think about the radio? Do you ever listen to it? And what do you think about iHeartRadio in particular? I could talk about some of their cringeworthy award shows as well, but I really don't want to get into that here. I mean, they just try to scoop up everything. They try to insert themselves in. It's just like, oh, I stuck my foot in the door here. Oh, iHeart's coming in too, and we didn't ask for you. And I kind of feel a bit like Billy Joe Armstrong did at their awards ceremony.
I got 1 minute left. Oh, now I got nothing left. Let me show you what 1 fucking minute fucking means.
Alright, that's a wrap on this episode of The Think Tank. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like on it if you did. Subscribe for the love of music. I genuinely do feel that iHeartRadio has ruined radio for everyone to the point where it could never return again. But join the discussion in the comments section down below. Here's a couple of other recent videos. You can tap these cards to see those. Socials, including my Patreon, if you'd like to contribute financially, can be found in the description. And I'll see you soon for more on Beyond AR TV.